On April 13, 1970, 200,000 miles from Earth, astronauts heard a loud bang. The spacecraft shook violently as warning lights flashed. Through the static, astronaut Jack Swigert spoke the words that would become legendary. "Houston, we've had a problem." NASA's third mission to land on the moon was instantly aborted. The crew was now in a desperate fight for survival. In a fraction of a second, the mission's objective shifted. The goal was no longer historic exploration, but a desperate race to return home before dwindling resources vanished. The Apollo program was the pinnacle of the space race. In 1969, Apollo 11 landed humans on the moon, securing a massive technological victory. Apollo 13 was intended to be the next routine step. Commander Lovell, Jack Swigert, and Fred Haise were heading out to conduct scientific experiments. About 55 hours in, the astronauts were performing a routine procedure to stir the oxygen tanks. Suddenly, a violent explosion ripped through the craft. Instruments flickered as the ship's oxygen supply began rapidly venting into the vacuum of space. As this diagram shows, the explosion created a catastrophic chain reaction. The loss of oxygen disabled the ship's fuel cells, which in turn cut all electrical power to the command module. Without power or air, the state-of-the-art vessel became a cold, dark enclosure, drifting nearly 250,000 miles away from Earth. In Houston, Mission Control designed a desperate emergency plan. The astronauts had to abandon the dying command module and move into the lunar module. This chart shows the lunar module's baseline capacity. It was engineered to support exactly 2 astronauts for 2 days. Now, that same module had to keep 3 astronauts alive for nearly 4 days. The gap between their available resources and their actual needs was staggering. To bridge this gap, the crew shut off nearly every electrical system to conserve energy. Life inside the powered-down module became a test of endurance. Temperatures dropped close to freezing, and the crew lived in pitch darkness, forced to survive with extremely limited water. Survival turned into a relentless accounting game, where every drop of water and amp of electricity was weighed against the crew's ability to hold on. The most immediate threat was completely invisible. As the astronauts breathed, carbon dioxide levels inside the small cabin began to rise. The lunar module's filters were exhausted. Without a solution, the 3 men would slowly suffocate. Houston engineers had to invent a filter adapter using only the miscellaneous materials the astronauts already had on board the spacecraft. Using only plastic bags, cardboard, and tape, they designed a device to scrub the air. The astronauts successfully assembled the strange device and connected it to the life support system. Carbon dioxide levels dropped. This makeshift hack bypassed a fatal engineering bottleneck, proving that human adaptability is the ultimate survival tool. Surviving the transit was only part of the challenge. The crew still had to survive a violent atmospheric re-entry. They had to move back into the command module, which had been powered down and soaking in the deep freeze of space for days. If the frozen navigation and parachute systems failed to restart during the reboot sequence, the capsule would either burn up or bounce off the atmosphere forever. Their lives now depended on a frozen computer system restarting correctly during the most violent phase of the return flight. As the capsule hit the Earth's atmosphere, friction created a superheated wall of plasma, severing all of their radio communication. In Houston, engineers waited in absolute silence. For several terrifying minutes, they had no way of knowing if the crew had survived. Then a voice came through the radio. The parachutes had deployed, and the capsule was floating safely in the Pacific Ocean. The Apollo 13 mission never reached the moon. However, against impossible odds, all 3 astronauts were brought home alive. History remembers the mission as a masterclass in rescue and problem-solving. It stands as a powerful reminder that human ingenuity is most effective when it is used to bring explorers back from the dark.